Uh, Welcome to Amar Caravan's Facebook live page. In this session today, uh, we are going to discuss rights and advocacy regarding budget. And today, eminent person who is joining us is Paul Divakar. Paul Divakar does not require an introduction. He is a well-known person in advocating Dalit rights nationally and internationally. He is a founder member for NCDHR of NCDHR, one of the founder member of NCDHR. Uh, he is chairperson for Asian Dalit Rights Forum. Is advocating for Dalit rights, economic rights, justice, and he is one of the pioneer who take up the issue of caste in CERT conferences at UN level. He took many activists, politicians to Durban to advocate the issue of caste, inclusion of caste in various forums of and papers of CERT. And at a national level, he is also founder and leading member in National Coalition for Special Component Plan and Tribal Subplan, who HR and other partners, who is advocating for legislation at a national level, talking to government at various level. So he will be joining us today. Welcome, Paul. Uh, in these three introductory sessions of Budget Ki Pathshala, in the first session, we tried to understand the basics of budget. By we gone through some of the key introductory words, alphabets of the budget, understand the ABCs of budget. We gone through how the budget's documents are prepared, timeline as such, and where those budget documents are available and how to read that. In second session, we try to understand uh, budget through specific lenses, particularly the special component plan and gender budget. Uh, and while those presentations, some of the points which emerged, some of the questions we took yesterday, today we are going to take another question which was at a broader level, particularly from the economic theory of well-being and how developed economies are taking up those into the practices and sort of budget making. Uh, just to recap what we discussed yesterday, uh, let's go through some of the key points which emerged from yesterday's discussion. Those key points are as you can see from the slides, uh, we try to understand social justice budget and gender budget. Bina sort of presented the analysis, some aspects of it from particularly gender lens. And the issues which came up in the discussion of prior and post merger of plan non-plan budget, uh, that the guidelines by the Ministry of Finance along with Niti Aayog for earmarking of funds are not being followed, which was not followed earlier. And the then Prime Minister in 2005 has said that we need to revamp all those programs and policies so that the gap between scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other people can be bridged within 10 years. But today, when we go on, when Bina presented some of the figures from woman point of view, from Dalit woman point of view, the situation of Dalit woman is not very comfortable. The issues of one single program like post-matric scholarships, the budget is being reduced. Most of the budget which is being allocated in special component plan doesn't reach to community. Only what Bina presented yesterday, that out of 83,000 crore budget, only 16 17,000 crore budget is going to the community, and rest of the budget is being diverted or used been for other capital purposes, which does not directly benefit the people. Economic sector schemes are not much relevant. Good schemes are starved of funds, and relevant schemes allocations are being increased. So those are the point came. And if you look at the budget of 1920, she also gone through the statement, and we seen that how the statements can be read and where those statements are available, that most of the schemes are non-targeted schemes. And if you see from 2014-15 onwards to 2018-19, the budget of around 5,334,172 crores has been denied. The allocation, the due allocation which has to be made to Dalits and Adivasis of this country has been denied. Leave aside diversion and non-utilization of fund, but this due share is been denied at the time of allocation itself. So we came across the issues of Dalit women, discrimination in access to justice, discrimination in access, the issue of manual scavengings and Devdasi women, uh, marginalization, triple marginalization, and sort of number of rape cases increasing every year. those those data are presented from National Crime Record Bureau. And with present situation of COVID, how the manual scavenging people involved in the as conservancy workers are suffering without equipments, how violence is taking place. If you take an example of Tamil Nadu, though in the situation of this COVID, many number of atrocities are being taking place. People are coming in groups, though it talk about physical distancing and so on, but no, more than 40-50 people are coming in groups and the violence is taking place. So if you go through the figures of National Crime Record Bureau, in a nutshell, every 15 minutes, 4 Dalits and Adivasis are subjected to atrocities. Every day, 4 Dalit women are raped, 2 Dalits are murdered, and 11 Dalits are beaten up. Every week, there are 14 Dalits are murdered, so on and so forth. Those are the figures from National Crime Record Bureau. So in order to address this issue, how the budget for Dalits and Adivasis are taking up these subjects, whether the act which talks Prevention of Atrocities Act, which talks about exclusive special court, whether allocations are being made for establishing exclusive special court, whether contingency plan act is being developed by most of the states. There are few states who has done that, but there are no contingency plan in order to have relief and rehabilitations of people who are the survivors of caste atrocities. So how budget is being reflected with this sort of uh, in order to address these conditions. And if you look at the caste atrocities and conviction, if you try to compare it, there is a rise in atrocities, whereas the conviction rate is less, right? And if you look at some of the top 10 cities, uh, crime reported against Dalits are high. Usually when we talk about past atrocities, it is been said that now in cities there are no atrocities, right? But if you look at the figures, right from Pune to Lucknow, the issues are high. And if you take some of the top 10 states, majority of the states, we are a progressive state with administrative details, smaller administrations. Now the cases has been reduced. The mechanism to address caste system has improved. Telangana do boost that our administration is doing very well. But if Telangana is also one of the states when it comes to the crime against women. So these are the issues, and how budget is taking these issues, particularly from the gender budget point of view, and also from to address crime against women. To take those figures from the internationally published reports, one of the report published by UN, which talks about that Dalit woman dying almost around 15 years earlier. UN expert report also says that India needs to do good sort of funding in order to provide adequate housing for Dalits. There is a lot of housing inequality, and the report was published as a housing inequality report in 2017. You might have also come across the reports where it was done by Human Rights Watch, which says, they say, the title of the report says, they say we are dirty. And this report was done by studying the participation of Dalit children at various schools, government school in 11 different states. So which talks about denying education to the marginalized by labeling them as a dirty, whether the faculties are not approaching them, they are not giving attention to them, the physical facilities of the schools are very poor, so on and so forth. The report talks about, so in the sphere of education, when we talk about development and the issues like education, health, housing, those are being addressed. Those are not being addressed in general budget, nor being addressed in the exclusive budgets of Dalits and Adivasis. So how this has to be seen will be discussed today, and some of the recommendations which came out of discussion, that there need to be a legislation. Some of the states like Karnataka, Telangana has come up with the legislation. So how legislation needs to be advocated at central level. So that some of the points we will discuss, and also that most of the ministries and departments not paying much attention. When yesterday we were talking about their budget, there are no gender budget statements in many of the states. Right? Some states do have a gender budget statement, and mere statement is not gender budgeting. And what we seen yesterday from us presentation, that very meager amount is being allocated for Dalit Adivasi women in Dalit Adivasi budget. So how to address this issue uh, while talking about economic justice from Dalit Adivasi women point of view, Dalit Adivasis point of view, from nomadics point of view, because there are no such policy program for nomadic people, and the participation and the population of nomadic people are, according to various commission appointed by government of India itself, are much higher. So how we are going to address the issue of nomadic budget? So these are the some key issues which we are going to discuss, and particularly from the sort of well-being theory of economy, how this meager amount, this poor allocation, this notional allocation, when we try to compare it with developmental economics or development economy of development countries, that we can see. So today, Paul is going to join with us, and he is going, who will going to take us the issue from the advocacy and rights point of view at a various level, particularly on taking issue of caste at Millennium Development Goal level, try to inclusion of caste in the Millennium Development Goal, also trying to include uh, the issue of caste from Sustainable Development Goal point of view, where 17 goals are there, and most of the goals, some of the goals, particularly from, if you try to see Sustainable Development Goal 10, justice, and development goal 10, which talks about sort of reducing inequality and so on. So, Paul, over to you. You can start.
Jai Bhim, thank you very much for this opportunity, Priya. I would like to really congratulate Manuski, Ambedkar Caravan, and others who have jointly started this budget Pathshala. I think it's very, very important, both zaruri hai. Because I think as communities who are discriminated by work and descent, it's which is another word for caste-based discrimination globally. Um, it's very important because till now most of the focus had been on body harm. What is happening to us? Dignity is also mostly defined in what our material and maybe immediate emotional aspects. Um, our security is also being defined in terms of physical security and also material security. But I think just now Priya was also talking about well-being. Now we are thousands and thousands of miles away from looking at the whole aspect of well-being. So well-being involves psychological well-being, mental well-being. Well-being involves spiritual well-being. Well-being also involves a kind of emotional well-being, and well-being involves a kind of security, sense of security, sense of being able to contribute, sense of being able to have realized our full potential. Now, so much or so many things we are talking about, but then look at our situation in Dalits and COVID. Most of us are still looking at day-to-day living. Out of 210 million people who are here as scheduled castes, hello, Priya? Can you hear me?
Yes, Paul. Yes,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
Okay. So when you look at this situation of the Dalits, in an aspect like pandemic that we are just going now, for the first time it has come that many of our people are still looking at maybe 2-3 day circles. That is, we can earn and our livelihood is remains with us for 3 days. After 3 days, if we don't work, then our starvation comes. So look at that situation of having only a security for 3 days, and without which we are just at the mercy of some relief or an external support that is needed us. From that point, to be completely independent, to have a physical and material security, and to have a well-being, so that educationally, emotionally, and in all other ways that we have a strong base and are able to have grow along with the broader, wider society, along with our nation growth. I think that is something which really is we need to begin to claim. This is our right. I think right to life and right to having freedom is not just a physical freedom to vote. It's not just a physical freedom to move. It's right to well-being. I think right to life for us is right to well-being. So let me start with budgets. Now I'll just clarify it again with Priya. Priya, now it is 4:20. I can go on till about 20 minutes, 4:40.
You can take 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We can have session. QA
Okay.
later on.
Okay. Okay. So let me share with you kind of a PowerPoint so that it for some of those who are not only tuned to listening, probably let me see if I can share my PowerPoint. Yeah. Now, can you see? Is it?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah. I would like to just share with you about the current budget, and we know what this whole thing is in terms of it's called Special Component Plan for Scheduled Castes. Of course, name has been um changed many times. Now, I don't think even government functionaries know what this name is. They're calling it Development Action Plan for Scheduled Castes and Development Action Plan for Scheduled Tribes. The focus seems to be slightly missed. There are some technical changes that have come. Earlier, we used to have, I think many of you know, you would have already had shared this earlier, that there are two components in a budget called planned budget and non-planned budget. But now I think that that distinction has been taken away. So the earlier concept is still saying, out of, if suppose total budget is 100 rupees, 70 rupees is what is called non-planned budget. 30 rupees is called planned budget. Out of the whole budget of 100 rupees, 30%, which is 30 rupees, would be planned budget. And then the then kind of a principle was proportion to the population of the scheduled castes. That is, if you are 16.6% of the population, then 16.6% of the planned budget, that is 16.6% of the total planned budget, which is 30% of the total budget, should be allocated directly for the benefit of reducing the gap, development gap between the scheduled castes and the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and the rest of the population. Similarly, the proportion of population of scheduled tribes, which is 8.2%, need to be allocated out of the planned budget for the development of scheduled tribes. Now they have taken away the distinction between planned and non-planned. So you have the entire project that is being. So there is a new formula that has come in, and Finance Ministry is struggling with it. And I must say they have done some part, not a full part, but they have done some justification for creating the new formula. What is the new formula? They have now created what is called development part of the budget and the administrative part of the budget. Like, for example, in order to run the parliament, in order to have the prime minister's office, in order to have pay the government salaries, in order to pay and have the rent, in order to have all the administrative things performed, that is called non-development part of the budget. That is, sometimes it is regulatory part of the budget. That is the administrative part of the budget. So administrative and regulatory part. Like, for example, there are some commissions and departments which regulate the functions of certain departments or certain, like say, telephone and something authority, regulator, telephone regulatory authority of India. Now that authority's expense is not development plan, that is regulatory money. So you have regulatory money, you have administrative costs, and you have the development money. So they have taken the development money, which is again three parts. One is two parts, sorry. One is centrally sponsored schemes, then central schemes. So central schemes are directly those that are completely financed by the central government's revenue. That is called central scheme, CS. Then CSS is called centrally sponsored schemes. So centrally sponsored schemes are those schemes which are also mixed together with the state government's amount. Like, for example, you take scholarship. Sorry, half a minute. Like scholarships, post-matric scholarship money is a centrally sponsored scheme. Part of the amount is borne by actually a great part of the amount is borne by the state government, and some lesser part of the money is borne by the central government. It comes from the Ministry of Social Justice and Ministry of Tribal Affairs for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. And this amount is comes from the centrally sponsored schemes. So central schemes and the centrally sponsored schemes form the development component of that money. So, sorry. I need some water.
Yeah, the distinction of this centrally sponsored scheme and central scheme is essential, because there are a lot of difficulty when it comes to schemes like post matric scholarship, and sort of, if you go through uh, the GR of uh, central government regarding post matric scholarship, their post matric scholarship talks about committed liability of the state, and therefore we certainly need to understand this what is central sponsored scheme and what is central scheme. Yeah, Paul.
Sorry about that. So this collection of central sponsored schemes and central schemes is which is called the development budget. Certain proportion is now being taken by the government and given to different departments, allocated as development action plan for scheduled castes and development action plan for scheduled tribes. Now, if you see the chart before you on the right side, which is figure 1, the total budget of our country is 3 lakh
30 lakhs crore.
30 lakh crore, 30 lakh 42,320 crores. That's a total budget. Out of that, the eligible central sector and centrally sponsored schemes is 8 lakh, about 9 lakh crores totally, 8,98,430. So let's say it's about 9 lakh crores. Out of this 9 lakhs, if you say as per their own guidelines, we are not talking about what our demand is. Actually, we had placed a different demand to the Niti Aayog and the Ministry of Finance. That's a different thing, but they have their own guidelines which they've come. And if we calculate as per their own guidelines, 1,39,172 crores for the welfare and development of the scheduled castes, and 77,034 crores for welfare and development of scheduled tribes need to be allocated. That is what the benchmark is. That is what the policy that the government has set. Now, the allocation as per the what is called statement 10A, which is for scheduled castes, and statement 10B in the budget book, is 83,257 crores for scheduled castes and 53,000. So, which means it is only 9.27% which they have done, and for scheduled tribes it's a little better. It is 5.99, which is 6%. So they have to be 8%. They have got 6% of the budget that has been allocated. We should have got 16%, but we got only 9% of what has been done. But that's only half the story. Now, you look at the schemes, you have two types of schemes. Schemes which are targeted, which means all the schemes actually, as per the guidelines of Niti Aayog and the Ministry of Finance, has to be directed towards for welfare of the scheduled caste individuals or a family or a habitation. So which means what? You can give directly scholarships to scheduled caste youth, students. You can give a pension to scheduled caste elderly people. You can give an NHS self-help group loans for a group of scheduled caste women, which is a group thing, which is a habitation thing. You can have a safe drinking water scheme for the scheduled caste. These are all targeted schemes. Now, sorry, non-targeted schemes actually is a fraud. Non-targeted is a fraud scheme. What is it? That is, in the name of scheduled caste, you just give it a name. We just give it a label that it is for the scheduled caste. Like, for example, you will build an airport in Delhi, and then you will say Delhi has 17.5% of the population of Delhi is scheduled caste. So because the airport belongs to Delhi, 17.5% of the total cost of the Delhi airport can be given from the scheduled caste funds. Now, is that a fraud or not? Is that a fraud? It is a fraud. You build a power plant, you build a court building, you build a police station, and then you say so much a percentage of people of this particular area are scheduled caste. So we will give some money from the scheduled caste pool to the building of the power station, to the building of the High Court building, to the building of IIT, to the building of some hospital. These are all non-targeted schemes. It's a very, very polite way of calling a fraud by saying it's a non-targeted schemes or fraud schemes. These are money that should go for the welfare of the individuals or for the welfare of the families of scheduled castes or scheduled tribes. But in their name, you construct airports, you construct a high court building, you construct a college building, or you construct a prison, or you construct a police quarters, and then say, yes, of course, because this population has contained scheduled caste, this particular area we are going to target. So targeted schemes, if you look in the whole, suppose say the total is 83,000 scores, non-targeted schemes are 67,000 crores. Out of 83,000 crores, 67,000 crores. That means almost 80% of the schemes of this total allocation is for non-targeted schemes. So friends, out of the money that has been allocated, 83,000, only 16,000 is for targeted schemes. Now, this is a very it's a miscarriage of justice for the Dalits as far as the budgets are concerned. 1,39,000 crores is what that have to be allocated. 83,000 allocation, which means half of that is only a little more than half is allocated. And out of that little more than half that is allocated, 80% of the money that is allocated is fraud. It is actually used by somebody else other than Dalits. Only 10% of the half the amount that has been allocated reaches the poor. So this is the story of the budgets, of how our economy, and if I've just put here what is the 5-year trend. Now, if you look at the 5-year trend, the same thing has been happening. So this is, they're doing this in this way in all this. So 50% gap and notional allocation. Notional allocation is the fraud, the non-targeted is actually taking place instead of real allocations. And in the absence, why this is happening? Because we Dalits have not had a chance to participate. Because had we participated in planning, had we participated in designing the schemes, had we participated in knowing how this allocation comes, this would not have happened. So there's an absence of participation of all the schemes, and then there is no accountability. If they say 1,39,000 crores is our amount, then they have to be accountable. Who is accountable? If Paul Divakar or Priya or X, Y, or Z is made a person, yes, you are the person who is accountable. Then we will catch that person, and if that money is not needed, is not reaching our people, then we will hold that person to task. We should hold Nirmala Sitaraman to task. We should hold Pradhan Mantri, our Modi, to task for not ensuring that this accountability is totally there. So I think there is a total absence of accountability and no transparency. If you look at the budget speech of these finance ministers, they only say how much of quantum of money that they are allocating, but they don't say in effect this allocation is fraud allocation. It's only a notional allocation. Then lastly, I think there are no grievance addressal. We have nowhere to turn. We just shout on the streets. We write letters. There is no mechanism where if we feel there is something is wrong. For example, we have this networks. You have Airtel, you have Tata, you have now Jio, you have so many calls. There is a very powerful authority called TRAI, Telephone Regulatory Authority of India. Now, we are paying, but sometimes it is being used by towers, which is being given by a different competitor. So Airtel has towers, Jio has towers, Tata Idea has towers, different other people have towers. But they have a way in which this money can be shared. They know, even though I have an Airtel connection and Priya has Tata or Jio, then how money should be shared. There is a very clear regulating authority. My money is collected, but they are able to say, have a regulation as how they will pay Jio, they will pay others. Now, when they have such very, very high-tech measures and mechanisms of how this invisible money that is being used because of these companies, if that can be shared, why can't a budget, which is very visible, very clear, why can't we have a redressal when people don't get the money that is being allocated for them? We should have a redressal mechanism. Now, there are several others, and yesterday Bina had very clearly talked. You have 88 lakhs 98,000. That's almost 9 lakhs amount which has been given as allocation for scheduled castes, but then scheduled castes, women and girls have only 0.98%. That means less than 1% is targeted for the women and girls even in this budget. I think that's another gross thing that we are doing, that when we are talking about budgets, we are only talking about either general or for men. We don't even us, we don't see what is the way in which we have to spend money for women and for girls. And same thing is happening with the scheduled tribes. And this is the list, what we have said. We have looked at all the schemes, and some schemes are good, which is only few of the schemes. The other, this is even in the target schemes. Some schemes are absolute schemes, like for example, National Rural Health Mission Maintenance, 2,209 crores are being spent for National Rural Health Mission infrastructure maintenance amount. So why should that money be used for infrastructure maintenance? Why should the scheduled caste money be used? Then I will tell you another one. Integrated Power Development Scheme, a grant, 1,150 crores. Now, if the 1,150 crores is spent for the scholarships of the scheduled caste girls, scheduled caste boys, scheduled caste youth, we will have, just within 5 years, we will have such a crop of people, young women and men, who are able to challenge and contribute to the growth of this country. No, they are not doing that. They are giving it to all total diversion. Uh, then several others like this. There are so many others that are there that are going like sometimes yesterday I think Veena was also telling they are buying bullets. Some states are buying bullets with this. Some states are constructing prisons with this. Some states pads with this money. Now, this is all on record. I am not saying this as a Bollywood picture film or anything. This is actually what they're saying in the budget books. Earlier, about 8 years ago, Delhi budget, they have distributed laddus. Now, the laddus that are distributed during Diwali, they have accounted for under scheduled caste plan. So this is the way in which that money has been utilized. Now, there is another thing. Even in the amounts where they are allocating without fraud, that is targeted money, there is a gap between the amount that they have said for the, and can you close this door, please? For the money, like for example, scholarships, then some of the states have returned the money back to this central government, this amount. And this has happened to UGC. They have done the same kind of thing. And then what we have presented to the government is that there needs to be a people's budget, a budget that comes out of the consultation of all the scheduled castes. And then we said how much we need to build. There are several things that we can build. We can build nursing colleges, residential coaching for SC students, boys hostels in every district headquarters, girls hostels. We can have Ambedkar universities in all the states. We can have direct irrigation programs specifically targeting SC, ST farmlands. We can have horticulture. We can have sericulture. We can have very clearly dairy schemes. We can have livestock like that. We have consulted and suggested so many schemes to the finance minister. But very, very sad to say that they have not taken any of these schemes. So friends, what do we have to do? If this is the situation, first, we need to make sure that we have tools to analyze and then very clearly discern what is the money that they are saying belongs to us and what is only a fraud way that they are saying, putting it on paper and not paying. So three things here we have to say. Dalits in the caste structure have no right to plan for themselves. I think this right has been given to the person who used to be our owner, the landlord, the brick kiln person, the bonded laborers, the person who is owning this bonded labor. Or if you are in a village, then the dominant caste have the right to plan. They will plan where the housing should be. They will plan how big is my housing. They will plan as to whether our children can go to school or not. Now we are saying, now government is doing it. Now what we saying, right to planning has to be the first main right for the Dalits. It's not enough that we have right of speech. It's not enough that we have right to go to the thing, but we must have, because the money that is going into the government coffers, the reserve, the government khazana, the money that is going is also my money, because whatever we buy, there is an indirect tax, and that tax goes to the government treasury. Now, from government treasury only, all these schemes are coming. Now, when this money is coming from me and our income, and the scheduled caste actually give much more proportionately than the dominant caste because of the numbers that we have. If you take caste wise, we are 16.8% of the total population. All the chawal that we buy, all the tel that we buy, all the clothes that we buy, each of them there is a tax money that goes. Now that money we have a right to plan. And that is what we need to do. We have a right to plan, and then we have a right to plan for the development, for our own development. So we have to decide what are the ways our money should be going, and we have a right to participation. That is the basis of our demand. That why are we demanding? Why are we looking at the budgets? Why are we looking at analyzing the budgets and seeing where our money is? Because we have a right to plan, we have a right to development, and we have a right to participate in how the execution of this development goes. Now, Priyadarshi Bai in the earlier has talked about happiness index. Now, if you look at the happiness index, UN has started World Happiness Index. They have put the entire index, and India ranks 140th out of 165 countries. What a sad thing, my friends. What a sad thing. Our country is supposed to be the largest democracy in the world. And we are part of the G20 countries, the group of 20 countries. We are one of the fastest growing, or used to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world. We have mostly, I think we have the highest number of billionaires in the world today, like Ambani's, like Adani's, like many others. We have. Our people are buying farms in Africa, in Australia, and several other countries, in US and several other countries. No, but then some of the world's poorest people are living in this country. When we ranked 140th, New Zealand, if you look at the others, happiest countries, there is now a World Happiness Index. Finland and Norway, Denmark, these are all called Scandinavian countries, and Iceland, these are the 4 countries. They form the highest of the happiness countries. If you look at Switzerland, Netherlands, New Zealand is I think he was talking about New Zealand. Recently, the Prime Minister Jacinta of New Zealand, last year, she announced a wellness budget for the New Zealand. Now let's come to that. What is this well-being budget? Well-being budget, actually, Bhutan is the country that has started this in 1979 or 1980. When we started the whole SCP budget, Bhutan King has already started gross national happiness. And then he said gross national happiness is actually much better. Of course, now Bhutan has gone very, very, very low, but it's one of the first countries that has brought in this whole, what is called the happiness, national happiness index. And where they said is the GDP, gross domestic product, or the wealth is seen as, the GDP is seen as the gross is the indicator of our wealth. If you have a high GDP, then your country is regarded as the best. Now, that has been turned differently. New Zealand challenged the world to assess its terms from a different way. It said it's not the GDP, but how the country is better at well-being. So they have converted, it's not the wealth of the country that you need to measure, but you need to measure the well-being of the country as being a target. So the target, if you put as the GDP is the target, then only Ambani and only Adani and only some of the politicians who are supporting these people, they will be the happiest people. But the country which is making them happy, the country which is contributing to their being happy, the country which is building the projects, the country, the people who are laboring, the informal sector people, the Dalits, the Adivasis, the forest dwellers. Now, these people's well-being is not considered as part of the gross domestic product. That is the main difference. Now, what we have to ask for is, first we are saying we want we want a right in the planning. First, till now you have planned for us, you have abused us, you have decided what we have to do. You did not give us a chance to learn literacy. You should not give us chance to learn slokas. You did not allow us permission to read the holy books. You did not give us permission to enter into schools. You did not give us permission to choose a job, but we have been bonded labor right through. But now we are free citizens. Now, free citizens is not only just votes, my sisters and brothers. We know that. It's not free to vote. It is free to create our well-being. It's free, first of all, the basis to create our well-being is not to depend on others. The basis of creating our well-being is we have to first to plan. So right to plan. And then we have a right to develop ourselves. And then we have a right to participate. And that we'll have to do to see how we can create this into the well-being. The time is going, so I will not get into the whole thing. But let me say, what is it that we can do? Very clearly, I think first of all, there are certain things internally that we need to do. We have to first equip ourselves, like how we have equipped for literacy, like how we have equipped for computers, like how we are equipping to do different things. We have to be budget literates. That means you have to grab the budget book and you can look at about 1 or 2 hours of looking at the budget book. Then the figures, you should be able to understand that this figures, is it going to be a development budget for the scheduled caste, or it's going to only create Adani and Ambani and Modi's of this world and of this country and only for their well-being. I think that budget literacy is very important. And second, once we do that, we should know, we should ask, किधर है 100 में 25 हमारा अधिकार है. We have a right, हमारा हिस्सा है. We have a right to demand the portion of the budget, not because they are giving it free, but because it is what we have contributed to the treasury. वो खजाना में मेरा हिस्सा है, मेरा contribution है, मेरा labor है. वो किधर जाएगा? Now it is robbing me, making me contribute and robbing me from the outside. So the second is, we'll have to make sure that to claim the money, we have to claim, yeah, this is my amount. You cannot spend it on 6-lane road and then say you're doing it for the welfare of the scheduled caste. You cannot put it on huge power projects. You cannot put it on other, you put the other money. You tax the people and put the money, but my money goes for development of my children, education. Now, where is the money that now if you look at the money that is coming in, it is, of course, you have seen, no, 139 crores and 16,750 or something is the figure. 1,39,000 crores and 16,000 crores is what is actually targeted in the scheme. Even that 16,000 you are not spending. It is being given, wo wapas de raha hai aap. So now we have to track my money. You have to ask this question, where is my money? Where is the amount for scholarships, my dear DM sir? Where is the question? Where is the amount that you have allocated for the drought relief money? This COVID relief money, where is it coming? Where is the PDS? How many kgs, how many quintals are you lifting from the FCI godowns? How much of it is being distributed in the SC hamlets? Give me the accounts. Put RTIs. Read the budgets. Where that is. So we have to track the money. Then second, from the application side, we have to make sure that we simply jam application for land development, application for horticulture, application. So we must see what are all the schemes, what are the procedures, is it online, is it offline, where do you get this, who are the people? So we must have a facilitation center at each block. So we have to form groups, our students, our volunteers, let us form groups and say, come on, no, we are educated, okay, we know, now we will get all the schemes that are supposed to be implemented in this project or in this state or in this district. Then we will create the application form copies. We will find out who these people are, because government people are not going to do it. Of course, it is their duty. So then we will ask them also, are you performing your duty? Why Paul Divakar should not be dismissed because he has not given even 10% of applications being a government officer? Why the block development officer should not be dismissed because he has not done his duty of development of the scheduled castes or scheduled tribes? So let us have facilitation centers. Let us have social audits. We should conduct what is the social, how we are going to have a social audit of the entire development action plan for scheduled castes. 1,39,000 is my due. How much is the money? Where is the money gone? Let us conduct a social audit and let us give it to them. Let us give them as evidences, clear evidences. And now Priya Bhai is also part of us. Many of you, I think, may have known that we are approaching the Ministry of Social Justice to have an audit, to have a mechanism, to have a redressal mechanism, to make sure that every paisa of the money is accounted for. Now, if we ask, I'm sure we will get it. We will get it. If not today, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, day after tomorrow. When I see our sisters and brothers in this COVID, and that is what I'm really inspired by they said lockdown, no lockdown for us. Let us go. No rains, no flights, no buses, no trains, doesn't matter. We will just go step by step by step. We will walk. It is 200 kilometers, it is 300 kilometers, it's 400 kilometers. Our people have walked. Some of them have collapsed on the way. Very sad. But then they did not just stay and say, oh, somebody will save. Somebody, no, nothing. We are resilient communities. We are a product of people like Baba Saheb, Ambedkar, Phule generation we are. So we need to see and see and develop the resilience that is there. So first, we claim our right to plan, our right to development, and we participate and we demand where our money is. Thank you very much for this opportunity. If there are any things, sorry I have taken a little longer than I should have, but I'll be open for any things. Thank you very much. Priya, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. It was a very nice presentation. There are some questions coming up from the viewers. You said that budget literacy is very much essential to talk on economic justice and so on. But one of the questions which come up from the audience, I guess the question is from Mangesh. He says, how to make mass movement for our economic rights, justice?
Do you want me to take question by question?
Yeah, question by question we will take.
Thank you, Mangesh Bhai. Nice to see once again. Congratulations on the Manuski, Ambedkar, Caravan, and others who have started. I think this is nothing but the budget literacy that you're doing. What do you call it? I think you call it budget ki pathshala. I think this budget ki pathshala is virtual, and that is possible to do it during this time. But I think this is a good lesson for all of us. Why don't we have this, and maybe even through radios, we develop a cadre. We have because this is not rocket science. I'm not in that sense a very big academic or anything. I've just trial and error. And if you spend just 3 days, 4 hours, 3 days, you'll be able to know what the budget is. It's very simple. And so I think just like how we have people today who may not be lawyers, who may not be advocates, but they know Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act. They know POSCO. They know about domestic violence. They know about women's rights. So I think similar way, we'll have to emphasize that we can have a whole series, maybe small booklets, maybe quick 3-minute, 4-minute video or presentations, maybe webinars like this. If we, I think, do it in Hindi, in Telugu, in Malayalam, in Marathi, and in all the languages, mostly where our people are very comfortable with, I'm sure just within a period of 1 or 2 years, we will have people who are very.
Yeah, yes, the budget literacy will certainly help, but how from budget literacy to budget battalion? What will be the mechanism? You rightly pointed out that there should be right to participation, right to planning, and right to development. But certainly, to take it at a mass level, at a mass movement level, from literacy to battalion, how we can step further?
I think that's an important, very, very important question, and we need to really deliberate on it. मेरा सोच यही है, सो पहले मेरा कन्विक्शन यही है, ये बजट मेरा हिस्सा है, वो ट्रेजरी के को खजाना में है, वो मेरा पैसा है, सो मेरा बजट किधर है? सो सबसे पहले मेरा मन में, मेरा दिल में ये सवाल आए तो वो नेचुरली वो सवाल एक लड़ाई तरह वो कन्वर्ट करेगा. So it will transform automatically into a demand. So once we know, like Baba Sahib had said, you tell slave a slave, and then they will start rebelling. Now we say that 1,39,000 crores. It's not a small money. 1,39,000 crores is almost $9.5 billion US, which is a huge amount of money. Now, if that amount of money, ये आपका money है, it's actually supposed to be, but then you are getting not even 10% of that, then 90% of the money is being stolen away. Now, will we not get, if nothing, angry? And once that anger comes, and I'm sure we can turn that anger into a rightful advocacy for demanding our rights through all these schemes.
Yeah. From your presentation, Paul, there emerged some certain points. One was that now there are different circular. Earlier, it was very much easy to understand what proportion should be there for allocation under special component plan, which used to be called earlier. But with this change of Planning Commission to Niti Aayog, and now Finance Ministry giving the different circulars every year, sort of, regarding earmarking of the fund, how you see this transition and how it has affected or benefited to this component plan?
In one way, I think it has become a little bit more complicated. It is not impossible. Now how as soon as this came, we all started. We had a national consultation as what are the ways in which we need to calculate, and somehow those are the things that have been taken up by the ministry, and they have one thing I must say. The core of the special component plan has been kept. Now, what they have not kept is real money, allocating it to the different thing. That the principles they have kept, but the practice they have abandoned. So I think it is not very difficult for us to equip ourselves how this policy can be converted into looking at how our money is done. It's not very difficult. Probably, I think you will require around 9th class, about 9th class or 10th class maths. If anybody has, not even 10th class, I think 9th class maths, if you have studied, if you have passed 9th class maths, you can calculate from the union budget how to arrive at our figure. That's all that is needed. So technically it is very simple. All you need is 9th class level standard of maths. Now, what is more difficult is first of all convincing our people, convincing our own colleagues, saying that this is rightfully our money. And they can say, how, where am I contributing to this money? Then we'll have to say, in 1 kilo of chawal, rice that you are buying, 1 kilo of gehu that you are buying, 1 kilo of atta you are buying. Now, so much money is on tax, and that tax, whether you are not taking it, giving it, but there is a thing called GST tax. Now, GST tax automatically deducts that and gives it to some part to the state and some part to the central government. Now, 65% of that money that is in the khazana is from GST, the taxes that we are giving. And how much? We may not be giving the entire 30 lakhs. We are giving at least more than 1,39,000, which is what they are giving. So we are giving more to the government. What we are getting is very less. Now, this is a point we'll have to. So if this is truly your money, we have to tell them, you do one thing. You don't deduct taxes when we just direct it, putting into our common bank. After every year, we will take that bank and we will use it. Now, that will be more than 1,39,000, which they are 39,000 crores, which they are allocating. So first, to make them realize or make ourselves convinced that this is our money, and from this money we have a right to educate our children, we have a right for housing, we have a right to health, we have a right to clean drinking water, and we have a right to all facilities. During even a time like lockdown, our people should not be going hungry or should not be put to such distress during the time of this lockdown. So this is our right, and I think we have to begin to claim these rights.
Yeah. You in one of the problem which you cited, one of the point was redressal mechanism. Now, as a policy matter, now allocation to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, Dalits and Adivasis, it's a policy matter, and in those redressal mechanism, in the absence of redressal mechanism, can we go to courts where we can take up the issues of diversion, denial, or notional allocations? Pause.
Yeah, definitely. Let me say that yes, we can go to courts. That's not at all a barring thing. But when should we go to the courts? I think this is something that we should do. We can't go to the courts at the start of the whole process. So what should be the whole process? We should begin to slowly pitch all the necessary compliances. First of all, have we made a petition? Suppose say we said, say for example, from Maharashtra, there are 3 lakh students which are supposed to get the post-matric scholarship. Now, have we complained to that authority that out of the 3 lakh, 2 lakh population have not got their scholarship money? Now, out of the 2 lakh, have you even given a sample of 2,000 people in this particular 2-3 districts who have not received the scholarship? Now, has the authority given you a reply? Have you challenged the reply? Now, there are all these points that the courts will ask. So first we have to start doing this. First, we need to have the budget literacy. You need to claim that thing. You make the petition. You hold the secretary social welfare. You hold the director of these scholarships. You file petition. So you create the evidence that is needed. So this is called, in the economic, social, cultural rights, we have to create an evidence of appeals equal to what you will call FIR, first information report. Now, if you don't give the first information report and then say ask the courts to give you justice, they won't give you justice. Now, when will the court will you give justice? I've gone to the police station such a date. I filed the complaint. It is FIR. They have not taken it. I've written there. They have not given it. I've written to the SP. They have not taken it. Now I have given to the Honorable District Magistrate, the Judicial Court. You direct. Now the court will say, yes, 3 times you've done. We have not got. You've got evidences. So that evidence we need to create as far as our for the courts to take cognizance. So I'm sure, and I can quote several examples. I'm sure you can quote also. Several of the listeners will quote. One of the things, there was a diversion of the Commonwealth Games money. I think it is something like 783 crores have been diverted from the Delhi People's Scheduled Caste Plan. We filed a complaint, we got the letter, we did it, and then some of the MPs raised. Then it came. Then we filed a place in the court. Court said no, like this. We withdrew. But finally, a collectivist 536 crores has been returned by the Delhi government. Put it back into the kitty of the scheduled caste. Now, what happened to the money is a different thing, but still, there are possible. When Delhi government did not have the budget code 789 for the scheduled caste, now the courts have directed, the executive courts have directed. So, and we are fighting with the Ministry of Social Justice, and they are saying, okay, we will have a redressal mechanism. We will have a guideline. So I think at one point or the other, first, I have to believe I have a right to plan. I have a right for development. I have a right to participate. Once that thing is there, then we will not keep lying low. We will file petitions, we will show evidences, and we will go to the higher level, and then we can definitely make this into a case with the courts, and definitely they will take action.
Brother Paul, you were part of the struggle for making legislation for special component plan and tribal subplan in the joint Andhra Pradesh and later on Telangana as well. How do you see the difference of this? You are coming from Andhra. So how do you see the difference post legislation in the allocation and implementation of this program?
Tremendous change. There's a lot of change. Of course, people are still complaining, but people are their level of complaint is very different from the level of complaint in other states other states. They don't even have a right to complain. Now they are complaining. You have allocated this much. Where is the amount? Where show us the money? Where it is gone? Those people have not received the money. This particular. So, first of all, the level of real allocation. See, if you see in the union budget, which is actually better than many of the states, out of 1,39,000 crores, 16,000 crores is the targeted allocation. I mean, if you look at all the things, the due is so much, then what is actually there is only 60. So 1,39,000 crores, 16,000 crores. Now, if you take states like Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, I haven't studied Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand is also supposed to have legislated. The four states have legislated. Now, if you take these states, the targeted allocation has increased. Now, targeted allocation has increased only because of legislation. Now, legislation also has given another chances, has given greater participation for communities to raise questions, to ask, and for the Department of Social Justice Welfare in each of these states have become much more powerful. They will put a very junior person there. Junior person, if some of the senior IAS officers comes, this junior IAS officer will not be able to say no. Now they are putting a very senior person. So which means all this shows the impact is the importance of SCP is gaining. So we cannot say that, oh, legislation they have come, it's the same. No, it's not the same. It's definitely stage, but then it's a long journey. And then how we make this journey, I think, is something we'll have to see. But without our participation, without our demanding, and without our ladai, I don't think it's very possible for anything to reach us.
Brother, you are engaged at international forum, particularly on global forum for dissent and work discrimination. How you see the issues of people from Senegal or Burakumin community, or participation of people from Brazil when it comes to the economic justice issue? Does the issues of economic justice is similar to what we see in special component plan, or other measures are being taken care at those countries and at UN level?
Let me just give a very, very simple comparison. I'm not comparing anything except the situation. Compare the situation before, say, the turn of 20th century, say 1890. 1890, you have the same cars all over the country. The situation is the same, but they're all known as different names. I'm a Madiga from Andhra Pradesh. Then even among the scheduled castes in Andhra Pradesh, we have Mala, Madiga, and so many, Chakkali, Dakkali. There are so many other castes. I'm sure in Maharashtra, in every state we have. Now, we used to only have our Kula leaders, that is our Jati leaders, and they would talk about those issues. Now, 120 years later, now with very great personalities, Baba Saheb and several others, but primarily Baba Saheb, what he has done, he's used a common name. He's used depressed classes for the British period, and using that one name, it is called strap handle name in English. For lack of a thing, it's called strap handle. Strap handle means, now if I have only 5 fingers, maybe if you give me individual things like this paper, pen, I can only hold maybe one at a time. But if I have a strap handle where I can put all these things into one, and if I have a strength, I'll be able to lift it. Now, what Baba Saheb has done, he's put all the, how many cars we have? 3,000, some 3,000. How many cars do we have?
More than 3,000 cost.
Yeah.
More than 6,000 as such in India.
Yeah. In India, we have, now he managed to put all of them under scheduled castes. Of course, name is very important, but the whole process of strap handling, putting it us under one bundle, and then fighting for this bundle. He's not fighting for Chamar. Of course, now people are now again fighting for Chamar, for Madiga, from Mala, separately. That's a different issue. That's an internal thing. I think that will always be there, whether with whatever be the thing, it might be there. But then there is a vision to fight for a strap handle of a group of communities. Now today, a Chamar from Maharashtra and a Madiga from Andhra Pradesh are able to communicate as one, as brothers, as sisters. We are able to say we. Just because I'm a Madiga and you're a Chamar, you're not. See, now it is an artificial naming. It's a very powerful. It brought all of us under one group. It's like what Karl Marx did. What did he do? He said, workers of the world unite. Just 2 or 3 workers of the world, 2 phrases. Any worker anywhere in the world, whether it is in the brick kilns, whether it is in grape vineyards in France or melon farms in Massachusetts in America. Workers of the world have united. Now, similarly, what we'll have to do is, Nepal has this problem, Bangladesh has this problem, Sri Lanka has this problem. Now, they don't have the experience, the leaders like we had. They don't have a Baba Sahib. They might take another 20 years if they have to do on their own. Now, after all this struggle, Nepal is the only country. And if you look at Africa, Mauritania is the only country which has named some of these communities. Senegal is another country that has named. But we have at least another 50, 60 countries. Research is there only in 21 countries. But the entire European country, right from England to Russia to Turkey, you have communities called Gypsies, Roma, Sinti, Travelers, Manush, Danu. They are all called the same kind of people in different names. Now they are leading the same life as Dalits. They are being criminalized. They are being excluded in their entitlement. Even in COVID, they are being affected. If you look at the enslaved people of Africa, they are sometimes in some of the countries, they are called caste people. They are using the same thing as caste. Shambara community, Drago community. There are several other communities in Somalia, in Mauritania, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, several of these countries. Now, there is a need for us to bring ourselves together. We don't have Baba Sahib Ambedkar, but that spirit is there. I think we need to link with them. And once we have a strap handle, why did not UN till now this is recognized, and then they have got so many procedures. There is a committee for elimination of racial discrimination. There's an African descent communities thing. There's so many mechanisms are there. Not a single word till now. India and many other countries are blocking this from appearing because we have not got strap hand and then say this is, and the name that UN itself has given during the time of Durban, discrimination based on, now we are using the same I think we need to really take this forward. See that right, because this kind of thing you have to fight like what get organized, but you also have to bring pressure from the international global side to slowly come and then say this is an issue that we need to do. And that approach, I think all of us will have to take it up.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. We'll certainly will take up the issues of what you have cited of Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and some other countries like African countries and Senegal and so on. Certainly, we need to rope in leaders from those countries, and the example you cited, we need to take it at a higher level. Thank you for your time and presenting the issues from understanding the technicalities, also to create budget literacy towards sort of budget battalion, so that we can have our own share, our own due share. 100 में 25 हक हमारा है. That will continue. Thanks for taking time out. बजट की पाठशाला में आज इतना ही. हम अगले कुछ दिनों में स्टेट के बजट्स की चर्चा करेंगे. स्टेट्स के बजट जो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कदम रखते हैं. State budgets are also very important because they contribute more on the development side as compared to union budget. And in this budget ki Pathshala will bring those states player who are working on Dalit Adivasi budgets and try to understand the status of affair of economic rights of those various states. Thank you.